Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
And
Okay, we will continue. Yes.
Sure, sir, you can continue, sir. We welcome you back, sir.
Thank you. So, in the morning session, one second. In the morning session, we did go through different way of doing the survey, of building the questionnaire. We also saw how we can use Google Form to create the questionnaire. Then linking that to the Excel, we can track it and do whatever analysis we want to do later based on whatever we are trying to understand or whatever research problem we have in our hand. Okay. Now, this particular slide, which will be visible to all of you, discuss about the data collection process. Whether you are using questionnaire or survey to collect data, these are the kind of steps you will go through for data collection. You will select the field worker, train them properly, do the supervision of the field worker. You also responsible for the validation of whatever field work is being done, and then you do the final step, that is evaluation of the work. And these are the criteria which you go through before selecting the field worker. Uh, Dr. Pavitra, please turn off your mic.
seriously,
So what happens, suppose whoever is going to collect the data, sometimes what happens, as a small research, you may go yourself to collect the data, but sometimes you will have field workers doing the work for you, for the collection of data. So their background characteristics, opinion, perception, their expectation, attitude can affect the responses they have collected. So whenever as a researcher you kind of select field worker, you have to do these three things. You kind of develop the job specification for the particular project, taking into account obviously the mode of data collection, how you are collecting the data. If it is online data, it's completely fine. You may reach the responder yourself. But if your data collection require you, suppose you are trying to address some social issues, whether the new government policy is kind of helping the upliftment of women in the rural areas or not. So there it is not possible for you to use the same Google form to collect the data. You will have to send people to the ground, or you yourself will have to go there and collect the data. So looking at the mode of data collection, you will define the job specification for the field worker. You will decide what characteristic you need in those field workers. Sympathetic, suppose somebody who has some social inclination, those who are involved into some social works, they will be more uh, kind of responsible toward their works, especially related to women employment. And then you kind of recruit the appropriate individual. And these are some of the few kind of general characteristic of any field worker: outgoing, communicative, pleasant personality holder, healthy, educated, experienced. These are the consideration you have to keep when selecting a field worker. I hope this is clear to all of you. Then it's your responsibility to train the field worker also. Because it is very much important. I don't know whether the slide is visible to all of you or not. The text are a little bit small here.
It's visible, sir.
Visible, no? Fine. Okay. So the training of the field worker is again your responsibility. They should be kind of have familiarities with the questions they are going to ask. they should be able to make sure the respondents are understanding what their whatever data you're collecting. You make sure that they read the question slowly. All those things you will take into consideration. The right way of asking the questions, that is what the points are listed there. Follow proper instructions, skip patterns, probe carefully. Those are listed there. It's very much important how they're going to ask the question. And there are some commonly used problem technique, a technique which is used to make sure they do not do the mistake while collecting the data. Those are repeating the question, repeating the respondent reply to make sure that is what they were saying, using a pause or silent probe, boosting or reassuring the respondent, eliciting clarification. You give clarification proper. Okay, fine. This is what you are trying to say. Using objective, neutral question or comments instead of being judgmental toward the respondent. And then come the recording the answers. Suppose you are going to collect data from different people who are doing interviews. So you will make sure that you record those interviews. That is what generally an interviewer will be doing. They will go and collect data or do interviews of a lot of people in a particular locality, suppose, and you kind of make from voice to text. You do the conversion after collecting all the interviews or collecting all recording all the interviews. You come back to your home and then kind of transcribe those interviews. Okay. And then it's very much important to terminate the interview. Like the respondent should be left with a positive feeling about the whole process. Like in the morning section, I was not able to give proper termination to the session. I had to leave in hurry. So that is not how a proper session should go on. Okay. These are few of the guidelines for interviewer training. You go through all these lists later. कोई मतलब नहीं है यहाँ पे discuss करने का. And then come the supervision of the field workers. Quality control, editing, sampling control, control of cheating, central office control. Or any idea what is sampling control? One second, I had few questions ready for you. Control. क्या हो गया आफ्टरनून सेशन में सब कुछ हो जा रहे हैं क्या? One second. अच्छा. Okay, we are active. Cool. Okay. See, whatever sampling method you are using, be it convenience sampling. What we do in convenience sampling, no sampling is perfect for all type of research. If the convenience sampling will work for you, you should go with that type of sampling. Yeah, it has some disadvantage over simple random sampling. Simple random sampling will generally be representative. If you have a huge population, then you will go for cluster sampling or stratified sampling. Now, as a supervisor, it is your work as a researcher to supervise the activities of the field worker to make sure whatever sampling technique you are using is being followed on the ground properly. For example, suppose I am running a exit poll company. And now, as an exit poll research company, it is my responsibility to make sure I have a proper representation of the population. If I am doing research or collecting data in a particular constituency, I, the researcher, should make sure I have representation of all community or age group or income group, all caste, so as to make sure my research output will be good. Quality assurance is there. The data I am collecting is a good representation of the population. So whatever prediction I'm going to make on the population, of the behavior of the population, it should be correct or near to the true value. Okay? That is what sampling control is. So any research, and see, there will be some research problem where you should not be worried about the sampling control. You are doing a convenience sampling. You have a very small research problem. Suppose you are trying to understand the preference of people in a particular community. You very conveniently will go and randomly ask people about कि चलिए ठीक है, these are the issues we are facing, आपका क्या बोलना है? तो you may not have proper representation in your sample, but you will get good research output. So I'm just giving you this example so as to make you understand that convenience sampling is not always incorrect. If convenience sampling use कर रहे तो the research will be bad. But there is nothing like that. Okay. कहाँ पे थे? हाँ. You have to make sure cheating should not go there. Like the people on the field are actually not doing any cheating. How you can do that nowadays? It's possible. लोग GPS से control करते हैं. Whatever the field worker are, whoever is the field worker, you will ask them to make sure they switch on their GPS, so that there will be proper logging of the location they are visiting. So they cannot cheat like, okay, ठीक है, I visited all these places, I collected data, and what the actually what the person is doing, he or she is sitting at their convenient places and faking all the data. ठीक है, बाकी आप लोग देख लीजिएगा, supervision भी more or less we understand, it is not that much important. And then again guideline on supervision, the Council of American Survey Research Organization, इसको आप go through कर लीजिएगा. Validation of the field work is important. ठीक है, what problem you will face if you are not validating the field work thing? Data will be incorrect, the output, whatever analysis you are doing, will be incorrect. I can give an example of what happens when validation is not done. Data is collected and just analyzed, and you will come out with a very weird output. So there is something called association rule mark. कौन से? I'm forgetting the example. Okay, हाँ, Walmart. I was what they purchase. So there is something called association rule mining. And what happened in association rule mining? These are the very business terms. In association rule mining, we say if somebody is buying product A and B, that person is going to buy product C also. That is what we do in association rule mining. So what happened? The Walmart was trying to do or implement the association rule mining. So they got consumer feedback, they collected data of whatever things they are purchasing. And when Walmart was doing this particular study, they had offline stores, and at that time, these electronic devices were not very common. So they collected the feedback on a piece of paper, all the information. They hired data entry people who worked day and night to input all those data in the system. And they applied the association rule mining on those data. And the findings they had, people of the age or of above 90 are buying alcoholic product from their shops. And that finding was completely incorrect. Why? What happened? I'm telling you. When you do not do the validation of the data you're collecting, most of the people are not comfortable sharing their date of birth. So for all the people whose date of birth was, or date of year, or birth year was not mentioned in the feedback form, they simply put a same date for all those people without realizing how it is going to impact the research. And the analytical team, the research team, when they analyze the data, they discover something which is not relevant to their research or business. And they had to spend twice the money on the research because all those data has to be fed in again just because of the data entry guy deciding, okay, fine, we will put this particular date for all those people whose birth year is not known. We will randomly put 1990. And the complete process of research was wasted because of this small problem. Okay. Then you do the evaluation of the field worker. These are criteria of evaluation: cost, time, response rate, how many responses they are getting, quality of interviewing, quality of data. These, you can see, these evaluation is very common for any type of job also. Suppose you have a field worker who are doing marketing work, also, then also you can use all these criteria to kind of evaluate their performance. How much money they are spending to collect the data. Response rate is how many responses they are getting. And then if they're doing the interview, what is the quality of the interview? And quality of data is very important. Whatever information they are able to capture through the interview. Okay. So we have understood how questionnaire are formed. We discussed of this process, data collection process. These things we already discussed in the first half. We did go through the process of questionnaire design process. We have discussed this, right? Okay. Now we have discussed survey creation, questionnaire design process, and the third way of data collection is left, which is observational method. Let me share the slide. In the previous session, all of you have installed, I think, RStudio, right?
Yes, sir. It was in the previous session.
Okay, fine. I will show some visualization technique, how we use RStudio to visualize data and do some regression. If time will permit, we'll do some regression testing also.
Okay, sir.
As the name suggests, in observational method, what happens? अरे आप response नहीं करेंगे तो फिर So what is happening in survey and questionnaire? There was some interaction between the respondent and the researcher. Here what happens, you do not sort information. You will just observe them and kind of do investigating research. Okay. For instance, there is an example written here. The investigator, instead of asking the brand of mobile phone used by the respondent, may himself or herself look at the mobile handset of the respondent. So, to understand which particular brand of phones people are using, as an investigator or a researcher, you may not directly ask them, you will just observe them which phone they are using. Observation can be personal or manual or based on some device, electronic or mechanical device. Like I gave the example of camera. Your manager can use the camera to observe the behavior of the employees on the workflow. How much time they are wasting on chit chatting, how much time or how eager they are to respond to the consumers. So these type of data collection is called observational method. Okay. What are the advantages of observational method? Subjective bias is eliminated, but provided if observation is done accurately. How subjective bias will be eliminated? Anyone?
But in this observation method, as far as I recollect, there are two ways to do it. One is participatory, the other one is non-participatory.
Correct.
So I think you are mentioning something about non-participatory observation. Remotely, you stay somewhere and observe people doing some activity and draw your data or information. But in case of participatory, you are very much part of the group. Right, sir?
Yes. What I'm trying to ask you is like this biasness is minimized, subjective biasness. Participatory, non-participatory, again the
But if
bias
you are there,
can.
but if you are participating as a member of the group from whom you are collecting your data, then I think there is subjectivity will enter and there will be some form of biasness will keep in.
In non-participatory or participatory?
Participate.
Participatory, correct, correct. So personal biasness will turn up there. Absolutely correct. But again, you have to keep in mind that this biasness is not completely kind of eliminated. Yeah, in non-participatory, what happens because you are not directly involving with the participants, you are not doing direct interaction with them, so those biases will not be there.
And
The
they will also
interaction
not be
bias.
able to know whether they are being observed or not.
Sorry?
They will also not be able to know whether they are being observed or
Correct,
not.
correct, correct. They will not be knowing also whether
Right.
they're being observed or not. And because in observation, what happens generally we use technology, so those tracking, tracing will go on in this non-participatory observation. Like we have a lot of ethical debate regarding the companies tracking their marketing employees, whether they are visiting the shops or not, there is a GPS marking. So the companies are using technology. You will never get to know whether you are being observed or not itself. Data collection is more or less nowadays been automated. Like we give online exam, Proctor is there, other companies are there.
Yeah.
They kind of use your laptop or mobile phone camera to decide based on a lot of analytics going on in the background whether you are doing some cheating or not during the online exam. ठीक है. So the subjective biasness is eliminated, not eliminated in fact, is kind of reduced if observation is done accurately. So in this type of information obtained under this method relate to what is currently happening and it is not complicated by the past behavior and future intentions. Obviously, in observational method of data collection, what happens? We are not manipulating anything. Like an experimental design of any research, what will happen? You will control certain variable, you will introduce treatment, you will try to remove the extraneous variable, or you will try to remove the confounded relationship. But these type of problem will not be there in these particular method data collection. You do experiment also to collect data. It's not like experimental research, but data collection कैसे होता है? Suppose I'm trying to understand the kind of the emotion the people are going through after watching a particular advertisement. Or suppose I have a two set of advertisement, one which is kind of connecting with the nationality of a country, and the second advertisement which is just happy-go-lucky type of advertisement. Now I will show those advertisement to two set of people, and then ask them to fill the same questionnaire to understand whether are they happy after watching the advertisement. I can ask a lot of questions. I'm just giving you a few examples. Second, whether they are going to buy the product or not. The way we are trying to promote the product. So that can be an example of how you use this experimental method to observe data. Here, not observational method, obviously. You are experimenting there. The observational method is completely different, where you do not manipulate anything. Clear? Now, this particular method is independent of respondent willingness to respond. Okay. I can observe as a researcher without informing also. So, this particular type of method is less demanding as far as the active cooperation of the respondent is concerned. Okay. But in interviews, and the other questionnaire method or the survey method of collecting data, the respondent willingness should be there to participate in your research.
Dr. Singh, I wanted to ask you one question. Can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
In the observation method, it has a limitation of something. The events have already occurred in the past, and you are doing a survey or collecting data, trying to know the reasons, whatever it may be. It's just not possible for you to observe.
We call
the
it tracing.
accident. So in that case, your observation method has a serious lacuna, there's limitation. You cannot collect any information because things have already happened.
Things have already happened. Like there is a term we use the term tracing there. The event has happened. You kind of go back, try to find the evidence.
Yeah. So observation is not directly possible in those cases.
Yes, the event has obviously occurred, but what happens is like all the activities, whatever has happened. Suppose you launch a product and it didn't work. Now you're trying to understand why the particular product didn't work. So you're not directly doing kind of any observation of the event because it happened in the past, but you will have some tracing. You will go back, try to find out the evidence. Okay, on the launch month it was selling good enough. Suddenly the sale decreased. We had this event. There is a public outrage against the company. There was negative sentiment. And that is how you kind of do the tracing of, in such type of research where the event is happening in past, you will obviously do tracing.
Yeah.
So I was coming to that only type of observation method: personal observation, mechanical observation. We had enough discussion of that, right? Then you do content analysis. That is also possible. So these all comes under observational method. Something has happened. If there is no data about that, you cannot do trace analysis also. Okay. Content analysis, I will tell you. Somebody in the first session was saying he or she is doing some LLM, large language modeling project. Now in content analysis, I can give you the simplest example. Suppose you have a social media presence. You are running a company, you have a social media presence. And a lot of people or consumer comment on your Twitter handle. Now you are trying to understand how many of the people are writing positive comment, negative comment, or neutral comment, or they are just coming there to complain about some incident, bad services, good services. And that is how that will come under content analysis. You are not asking for their direct participation. Data is already there. You just retrieve using the Twitter API and then analyze the data. Okay, fine. this particular month, we had 50% of the comments as positive on our social media handle, and our sales are increasing. So you will make sure ki, okay, fine, whatever comments the people are doing on my social media is kind of a reflection of the sale I am going to make in the coming month. देखते हैं सारे डिटेल्स में, देखते हैं कंटेंट एनालिसिस, स्ट्रेस एनालिसिस, पैंट्री एनालिसिस, दिस पर्सनल ऑब्जर्वेशन, मैकेनिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन, काफी देख लिया हम लोगों ने. Personal observation में generally you will have expert knowledge. Suppose as a company you hire a consultancy company to understand the employee satisfaction or why there is a high attrition rate in my particular company. A lot of employees are leaving the company. So the consultants will come, they will kind of observe the employee working on the workflow. They may kind of go beyond that also while entering the office and while leaving. They can observe each and everything, whatever you are doing inside the office. And those expert knowledge will help you to understand why there is a high attrition rate or churn rate, why employees are leaving the company. Okay. For mechanical observation, obviously you need permission. You cannot set up a camera outside your home. कि नहीं मैं ऑब्जर्व करूंगा how many vehicles are crossing my particular home or location. Okay. So content analysis, I already gave you an example. So used to when we observe about an advert, a conversation, or a passage of text. Nowadays, it's very easy to do these type of content analysis. आप लोगों ने बहुत लोगों ने वर्ड क्लाउड बनाया होगा from social media data, or you can kind of longitudinal studies जब करते हैं तो we come up with कौन सा frequency of word is being used high, more. You can, based on the frequency, you increase or decrease the font size of different text. आपने social media पे गया, you're trying to understand what people are talking on the social media. Although we get the trend nowadays, whatever is trending on Twitter or Facebook, they have their own algorithm. But again, you can analyze the comment made on your business social media, and based on the frequency, you can create a word cloud. That will be also called as content analysis to understand what consumer are asking on my social media account. If it is more about the negative thing, comment, complain, something not working, so you should start looking to solve those problems. Trace analysis, we all understand tracing क्या होता है, or I have to give example of tracing. So the slide says tracing is about past behavior on the basis of physical sign present at the moment. So as rightly said by one of you, that you cannot go back to observe those kind of events, but what we actually do, we look for some physical evidence. Something has happened. Generally, we use the term tracing in this online fraud and everything. From where the call started, IP address kya tha, and that is just one of the example of tracing. So you will say when we are doing tracing of suppose a ransom email received by a particular celebrity. Now, sir, there is no physical evidence there, but see the IP address actually is kind of, or the MAC address of your router will help you or help the investigating agencies to identify the culprit in all these cases. So this non-physical presence also kind of evidence will be there also. It need not to be physical only. For example, wear and tear of a book can tell about its popularity. Suppose you go to a library and you find a book in very pristine condition. So you will get to know nobody is picking up this particular book in the library of physical evidence. If there is more wear and tear, obviously a lot of people are reading that particular book. Wear and tear of tiles at the gate can give you an idea of number of footfall in a particular store. Okay, wear and tear, this is also good evidence. Tiles are kind of broken down, you will understand fine. A lot of people are very store. That's the reason the tiles are broken down. Or wear and tear are there. Some damage, not only broken down. Get risk analysis, all of you clear about this? I hope so.
Yes, sir.
Audit क्या होता है? You tell me about it. एकेडमिक ऑडिट होती होगी आप लोग के इंस्टीट्यूट में, कॉलेजेस में?
Yes, sir. Yesterday we had academic audit in the university.
Can you tell me like what happens in audit?
So basically, they follow a process. It starts with asking for documents in support of the whatever we are claiming to have been done. Okay, I'm talking about the academic audit which we had
Correct.
yesterday. So then followed by interaction with the stakeholders, and then there is a review, and finally they have a exit interview, and then they go giving you a rating.
Correct.
And
So
feedbacks.
there are some
And
past
feedbacks.
data based on that. Feedback will be there. They kind of review your performance. Okay, fine, you have been doing great. There will be physical evidence, past data. They will check each and everything. Okay. So here also we have few example on the slide. Similarly, like in a pantry audit, the investigator collect information from household of the consumer by looking at the inventory item and their brands. So as an investigator, what you are doing, you are looking at the brand on their inventory, how much is left in the house. Based on that, they will be kind of making some conclusion. कि अच्छा ठीक है, these particular brands are there on their inventory. So most of the people are buying these particular product. So based on the past data, you are not doing direct investigation. You are not asking any questions. You are looking at past data. The audit team will come. They will look at the past data. How was documentation? Generally, the documentation part is being checked in the audit. Are there any physical evidence for all the activities which has been done in the department or not? And then they kind of predict if fine, you have been doing great. Although in general audit in colleges, they ask a lot of other questions. Where are the supporting documents for these particular activities? Admission hua tha, where are the documents? Why this is not there? Why this is not being documented? But that is the part of accreditation process. They want you to follow certain set of standard. So that is why there are a lot of other things which is being done during the audit in college or institute. But mostly there is no participation from the institute or whatever being audited. ठीक है? So Data are obtained in such audit not by questioning but by observations. Clearer?
But actually, sir, audit it takes care of both. Actually, they adapt, they observe, they will also ask critical questions.
See, generally what happens in institute now, this audit is also there because we apply for certain accreditation. MBA accreditation होगी, कुछ होगा. Nowadays we are following Bloom's taxonomy और सब वो सारी चीजें. And that is the reason they ask a lot of questions. But
Yeah.
in general term, audit does not mean that there will be direct interaction with the people I'm trying to collect data. There will be past activity, information will be there. Based on that, I will observe things or come to a conclusion. There's a financial audit.
After seeing originally the word audit was associated with only the expenditure income pattern, whether there has been any irregularity, any misappropriation. See, this is
Yes.
where it started all audit, I can tell you.
Correct.
Recollect my past. But then
Yes, absolutely.
the term has become very wide now, and particularly in the context of educational institutions. Whatever audit we have faced so far, and I have been part of that, I'll tell you that is both. They not only verify your records, yes, they believe what you say, what you document, but then always they cross-check with some, they have their own ways to do it all. So they ask you questions, they interact with you, they observe
Absolutely.
around. So everything happens there. So it's not only observing what you are saying.
Yeah, because in the context of educational institution, they kind of review, assess your various operations, whatever have been done by the department, be it taking the class, organizing workshops. Obviously, finances will be there, a big part. All those, whatever activities, co-curricular activities, how effectively or efficiently you are doing those activities. It is kind of evaluation of whatever has been done.
Both in terms of monitoring, non-monitoring, and everything.
Correct. We have kind of academic audit, financial audit, everything will be there.
Yeah.
Then administrative parts come, compliance audit, whether we are complying with the set rules or not. UGC has given us some instructions, we are following that or not. NEP has to be implemented. We have to provide a lot of education in the local language, just that is being implemented or not. And in schools, we have seen there is a growing trend. There are safety audit also. Although it's not key, colleges are kind of out of this compliances. Safety audit also happens.
So, sir, safety audit is also part of the college audit.
Correct.
I'll tell you what happened yesterday. One of the member who had come here, the very senior man. So suddenly he got to see that fire extinguisher. So he was trying to find out when was it installed and whether the expiry date is there, whether the contents are there or it is just hanging, for he said. So they go into also the safety aspects also in the higher institutions. And I think it's a mandatory requirement now.
Mandatory kind of.
Yeah.
It has been correct. For very long, they have ignored all these norms in the schools, but it is getting like implemented very strictly nowadays. Okay. So this particular slide kind of give you a thorough understanding of the personal observation, electronic observation, audit, and trace analysis based on the degree of structure. Personal observation, obviously, there is no structure. You're randomly walking around, observing things. In electronic observation, it can be low to high. Where it can be high? If suppose I have installed a particular device to measure the speed of the vehicle crossing a particular traffic light. Now, this particular type of electronic observation is structured. They are specifically measuring the speed of the vehicle. But it can be low. A lot of randomly cameras are. I'm using those cameras to observe certain. academic, safety, compliances, everything comes under that. It's a very structured thing. You will be informed beforehand, like how data has to be arranged for them to come and verify that. Stress analysis, again, the structure is medium. The reason for that in stress analysis, what happens? The creativity plays a very important role. You cannot go with the set rules to trace certain events or set some part event. Suppose I'm trying as a IT expert, I'm trying to trace a particular email. So there will be a few structure way of kind of approaching that. But again, I will have to use my own creativity. And also we know research explanatory area, personal observation can be medium or can be high also. It can vary from medium to high in personal observation. But the problem is that it cannot be too high, because if you are observing somebody, that is not ethical if the other person is not informed about that. So disguise can be there in the sense, suppose we have a consultant on the floor, we will say, okay, fine, these consultants are here to understand the working of the employees in particular, suppose IT company. But they may not be knowing when they are being observed. So that is how the degree of disguise will be medium. Electronic, again, low to high, audit, the degree of disguise are very low, because the people who are coming to audit, you know, all the data has to be provided to them. So disguise is not, there's nothing to disguise in audit. In trace analysis, the disguise is very high. If you're tracing some events, you're trying to figure out the reason for, or trying to find some physical evidence, the disguise has to be very high in trace analysis. ठीक है, natural setting ये सारा देख लीजिएगा more or less. We will go into, you know, I'm planning to run few, we'll go to some data, we will use R to do some visualization of data. आप लोगों ने visualization of data पढ़ा क्या first half में? Not in the first half, in the second section. One second, let me check what was there in the second section. Introduction to qualitative analysis. So all of you have installed R Studio. I hope so, yes. मुझे पता है you have installed the R Studio. What we are going to do, I will share a data and R file with you all, and then we will go step by step, trying to understand how it works. Definition of the secondary data. The secondary data can be both internal and external. Internal in the sense, you have collected the data, but you didn't know that you are going to use those data for solve a particular problem. Like any organization, they keep track of all their consumer, their buying behavior, everything. Okay. External secondary data information. I gave the example of company named Nelson. They collect information of the from the all retail outlet, be it a small kirana shop or a big mall. Okay. External में government sources are there. In secondary data, in the internal category, we have very less number of categorization for the categorization. One is ready to use, required for the processing. So what happens? Suppose you have been collecting data. Nowadays, companies keep on collecting data. They don't know how to use them. So those data will be kind of raw data. You process those data and then use it for decision making. Secondary data, which we have understood, comes from the external sources. Published data, as a researcher, go to Scholar, those are kind of source of secondary data. Census data, other government publication, nowadays government has, because of the RTI and everything, we can find a lot of data available on the government website itself. be it the electrification of villages or all the cities, every data, whatever activity the government is doing, most of the good things are being published online. So you can use all those data to understand. Suppose you're trying to understand whether the government policy has kind of increased the uh, what I can say, the average salary of particular locality. So you can easily get the employment data of that particular district. You can analyze from the last 10 year or 15 year, okay, what was the employment rate in that particular district, what happened after the change of the government, did those policies really work? You can easily get all those data from government sources and do a simple analysis to find these things are working. Okay. So secondary data and primary data are different from internal data and external data. It should be clear to all of you. If the data is available within the organization, you have come up with a research problem for which the data was not collected. If you are using that data for your research, that will be called as secondary internal data. And outside the data is very self-explanatory. So comparison, basic primary data and secondary data. When you collect the data for the problem at hand, that is primary data. For any other purpose, you're collecting data, that is secondary. Primary data collection cost is obviously high. For secondary data, it's relatively low. As for the requirement, you can kind of buy, or most of the time, you got it for free, the secondary data. The government institution census data, everything is available to you. Collection time is obviously primary data will take a lot of time. Secondary data, you can straight away go start using. Suppose if I ask to understand the micro transaction being done at the all these gaming the young people, they play a lot of BGMI and other games on their mobile phone, and they're doing a lot, huge amount of, a huge volume of, not amount of volume of microtransaction on those platforms. And now you're trying to understand these expenditures. Now you can simply use the API of the company. The company have all the data. You will buy the subscription, retrieve the data from using the API of the company, a particular game, suppose, or 2, 3 games you're targeting, and then you can analyze what is the expenditure pattern there. You will get the demographic information of the kids on the platform. All the information will be there with you, and you can do a simple economic research to understand the macro transaction being done on those platforms. I'm just giving an random example. Okay, so we discussed about primary data, secondary data, how we collect primary data. Survey, questionnaire. We created some questionnaire also. We क्या करते हैं? Let's all of you please open your kind of R studio. My voice was breaking. I don't know why. Wi-Fi keep on switching. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay, I will request every one of you to kindly open your R studio. I'm sharing the file on the chat. Can I share file here? I don't think so. How can I share a file? Is there any session coordinator here? Do you have any WhatsApp group or something like that where I can send the file? Okay.
So there is a WhatsApp group created for this particular FDP, but I think only the admin can send
One second.
and share the message.
So all of you are there in that particular group, right? No, 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 no. I am in a group where only 10, 12 people are there. One second. Okay, give me a minute. I will call Preeti ma'am to share this with you. Ma'am, Professor Jai this side. I have shared 2 files with you. Can you please share that in the? Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Okay, what we are going to do is we are going to load a particular CSV file in our studio. And as most of you would have gone through the R Studio, I will teach you a few basic things of the R Studio. अगर आप लोग comfortable नहीं थे तो all of you are comfortable with the console, the environment, everything in the R Studio.
Excuse me, sir. You want me to share it into the group?
Yeah, yeah, with all the
Sure.
students,
Sir. Okay.
not student, my professor colleague, professor.
Sir?
Yeah, please share, please share.
Sir, we have shared it in the group, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, I will request everyone to kind of open the R file in your R Studio. I will request everyone to kind of turn on the mic now because hands-on के लिए it is very difficult for me to also understand whether you're getting it or not. And if it is interactive, then I will get to know, okay, fine, this thing is clear to all of you. This is how the art studio looks like. You have four windows here. Now, anyone can tell me which is the heart of this particular art studio? Mm-hmm. You had a session on art studio, right? Just give me a confirmation how many of you have actually opened the art studio. Okay, only one. Okay. So the console is the heart of the art studio. ठीक है, चलिए. So the reason I was asking the question to understand कि आप लोग को basic ideas है कि नहीं. So everything, whatever command we are passing, everything will run in the console itself. If we have some variables, some data file, everything list tuples क्या होते हैं, those will be part of the are all the variables will be visible here mostly in this particular environment window. Again, we have history, connection, tutorial, everything is here. So generally we say कि we have four window in R Studio. This one is the editor where you actually type the codes. The codes are already there for you. Once we start loading the variables, it will be visible here. This is the fourth window. Generally, I do not use so much. Mostly some of the time I will use to install packages. So if you have to install any package, you can install it from this particular tab. Plot will be visible here. We will do some plotting. देखेंगे हम लोग. We will go through that, and then we will have the understanding क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे. Okay. So mostly our discussion for this particular hands-on will be to understand the exploratory data analysis. We have already discussed about exploratory data analysis. क्या होता है exploratory data analysis? Anyone? Okay, ठीक है. We will apply the steps in data pre-processing, understand how to visualize data. ठीक है. We will do some plotting in the R. We will be using mostly R here. Python नहीं use कर रहे हम लोग. Okay. This is how the data science process model look like. You will start with an objective. Any data analysis process, there will be some objective you are trying to achieve. Like in this particular case, what will happen? We have data on a churn data of a particular telecom country. What is churn rate? Churn rate is when employee leave the company, or not employees, the consumer leaving the company and shifting to the competitor is what the churn rate is called. Now, for this particular telecom company, we are trying to understand. First, we will try to visualize the data, and we will try to understand what are the reason the kind of consumer are leaving the company or the customers are leaving the company. What is the reason for high consumer churn rate? ठीक है. That is our objective. Data collection. Collect data from the different source. Data has already been collected for you. As a telecom company, obviously you keep track of all the details of consumer, how many, what recharge you are doing, how many minutes you are spending on voice calls, how much data you are using, how many times you have called to complain about some service issues. So all those data are being regularly stored about the consumer or on a real time nowadays by all the telecom companies. And the similar data is there in this particular CSV file. Okay. Okay. So data collection part is already done for you. Now comes the exploratory data analysis. That is what we are going to do now. We'll explore the data only, then the data visualization, dimension reduction of factor analysis, we call it. If time will permit, we will discuss about that factor analysis, and then you kind of build a model. कि okay, अब ये model building क्या हो रहा है? So looking at the past data, what you will do, you will predict कि okay, fine, if a consumer is making 4 complaints in a month, and they have been using like 100 minutes of voice call in a particular month, they are more likely to churn or leave the company. Now that model will kind of predict those who are supposed to leave the company. Acha, theek hai. If the complaint is increasing beyond this, if their talk time is this many minutes in a particular month, they are most likely to churn or leave the company. Now this model building will predict those consumer or customers, and as a company you may start giving them some offer, or you will try to stop them from leaving the company. So in this particular hands-on, you will just look at the data, trying to understand a basic commands in the R, how we do exploratory data analysis. Okay. Why we do it? To understand the data, what data is very much important to understand what data is there with you, and you kind of identify pattern. You try to also understand the relationship between variables. देखेंगे हम लोग correlation क्या होता है, to decide the appropriate model to be executed on the data. So these are kind of, you try to find answer to some question. This is not part of the exploratory research only. You test assumptions. It is a complete process of research design. In data pre-processing, what happens? You first try to understand the data, look at the data, visualize it, deal with the outliers. Outliers क्या होते हैं? Then you deal with the NA values, and finally you do your cleaning is done, that pre-processing of the data is done, data standardization has happened. Outliers क्या होते हैं? Anyone? Anyone has any idea about outliers? चलो ठीक है. R studio में जाते हैं. Outliers are generally what happens. I will give you a simple example. Suppose you are doing some research to understand the average salary of a particular locality. Or let's come to a very simple example. Suppose you are calculating the average mark of your students in a particular class. And in that particular exam, most of the students have scored below 30 in the exam. And then one of the students has scored 99. And rest of the classes have scored below 30. And that particular mark, 99, will be outlier for you when you are finding the average mark of the student. Because of that outlier, your class average will increase. So what we do generally to handle those outlier, most probably we will see in this particular demo, we kind of either completely remove them from our data set, or we handle that using the concept of the quartile. We try to bring them within first and third quartile. Quartile क्या होता है? Derivative में we will go into that. Now let's come back to this particular R file. I hope all of you have opened the R file in your R Studio. Yes, no. All of you have, okay, fine. I got what, oh, yes. So to start to load a particular package, so I am going to use this reader package, which helps you to read any dataset, generally CSV file. Give me a minute, give me a minute. Oh, sorry, there was some disturbance in the next room. Okay. So this library functions helps you to load the pre-installed packages. I hope most of you understand the what packages are. Okay, कोई response नहीं है. ठीक है. I will try to give a brief information on packages and variables. See, these R and Python were made for the, what we can say, a manager or researcher like us, those who do not want to do hardcore coding. It may look kind of alien to most of you, those who have not been exposed to coding and all. But these are the one of the simplest programming language for statistician. Any statistical analysis you want to do, the R and Python will make your life very easy. Some command, they will take care of everything. Now, in any programming language, in a layman way, I will tell you, there are only two things: functions and variable. Variable which holds some values, function which manipulate those values. Any programming language, only two things, be it R, C, C++, Java, functions and variables. Variables will store some values like any variable in the maths we have studied. Now, we use certain name to store some variable. That name is called identifier in the language of programming. Now, you will say, identify कैसे करना है? How we will identify if something is function or variable? Now, look at the library here. Especially in Python, if anything, whatever has been written there, if it starts or ends with a opening bracket and closes with a closing bracket, that means library is a function. Anything which starts with that particular bracket, this bracket, that means it is a function. Function करते क्या है? They manipulate the variables. They do certain activities. Like, take the example of, like, for example, they are supposed to do something on the computer. They're supposed to do some manipulation, do some activity. Take it. So what does the library function does? It will load these packages, the reader package and ggplot2 package. What are packages now? Now packages are collection of functions and some data set. So what is happening here? The reader package and ggplot2 package are actually collection of a lot of functions. They give us a lot of functionality. Because I'm loading these packages in this particular program, now I have access to all those functions. If I'm not loading them using the library function, I will not have access to those functions. For example, suppose if I try to execute this particular command, can anyone tell me if I would just want to run this particular line or send this particular line to the console is here, what I'm supposed to do?
Sir, select the run option in the top corner of right corner.
Okay. But I will not use the run option. I will just click anywhere in that particular line, use the keyboard shortcut that is Control plus Enter. Now, what this particular error is saying here, could not find function read underscore CSV. Now, what happened? Because I have not loaded this particular library or package, I do not have access to read underscore CSV function. Now, read underscore CSV is a function. How I came to know? Because of this bracket, this opening bracket and closing bracket. It is a function, it is doing something. This particular kind of symbol is nothing but equal to. So kind of I'm saying read underscore CSV function. Okay, fine. You read this particular file and store in the variable or data file named df. From where the name came, I gave the name. From where the read underscore CSV name came of the function, it is there in the reader function. Now, if I kind of again use the control plus enter, I have loaded this reader function. Although I'm getting a warning, the package reader was built under R version 4.4.3. Nothing to worry with the warning. You have to worry with the error only. Now, if I run this particular command, now what will happen? Again, I'm getting an error. This time the error is different. What does the error says? 4.telecom customer churn dataset.csv, whatever the file name is, does not exist in current working directory. Now I have to change the current working directory. Current working directory means wherever this particular section of the console is trying to locate the file. What is the current working directory? You can see here. Okay. This is my current working directory. And this particular console is not able to locate the file in my current working directory. Any idea how I'm supposed to change the current working directory? Okay, I can go to session, set current working directory. I can click on choose a directory. I will go to desktop, BPUT, session 3. I hope so. My file is there in this particular folder. I will do that again. I will click on session tab, set current working directory, choose a directory. Suppose you have downloaded the file, it is in download folder. So you can simply locate the download folder. For me, it is on my desktop. So I located the folder, simply click the open. Now I can see the folder data here in the fourth window. दिख रहा है आप सबको यहाँ पे? If you can see, when I set the current working directory, console में एक function run किया है, set working directory, setwt, started with this bracket. Some function are getting run on the console. My directory is set. Okay, कोई message नहीं है. Let me pop up here. Now what I will do, I faced two problems. I resolved the two issues. I loaded the reader package for my current session. जो भी session मेरा अभी run कर रहा हूँ, for that I loaded the package. Again, if I close the R Studio, reopen it, I will have to reload the packages. याद रखिएगा. Now, if I run this command again, it is successfully run. Now this environment window has become active. I have a data file df. It has 5,000 observation of 14 variable. Correct? So what happened in this particular line? A data file named df is created. And what is getting dumped there? I use the reads underscore csv functions to read a particular file in my current working directory. Okay? Now, let's come down. Suppose I'm trying to run this particular command on the line number 21. Now I'm getting the error, could not find the function view. What can be the problem? All the functions name are case sensitive. So the view command works with a capital V only, a V function, a view function. So what I'm doing here, again I'm calling a function V. And what I'm doing, I'm passing the data file as argument. उसको मैंने बोला ठीक है, okay fine, this is the name of my data file which is there in the environment. I have just loaded it. I want to view the data file. I gave the file name. If I run this particular command, I can see the complete data file here. All of you are here only. Should I go a little bit slow, or all of you can follow me? I can be a little bit faster. See, what happens, if you understand this particular file, you can use it for your exploratory research, irrespective of whatever work you're doing, whatever data you're collecting. We know we have a lot of data nowadays for whatever research we want to do. You can simply straight away change the file name or do some tweaking, and you can straight away use all these files. Should I go a little bit faster? All of you can reach here, view the file. I think I will go ahead. Okay. Okay. Should I go a little bit faster, Sarthak? Okay. So we have to understand what are the information there in this particular file. So first column talks about phone number. These are called fields. All these are records. These rows are records. We call it tuple also. So these are field: phone number, age, gender, what I need, zip code, call, SMS. If you look at all these data with more details, like this call is like the hour of call. 1 second. I have the description of all the data here. So the first column talks about the phone number of the customer. Obviously, that is truncated number. We want to maintain the privacy of the consumer. Now, age is there, age of the consumer. One means it is kind of in a group of one represent 80 to 30, two represent 31 to 40. So these understanding of data is very important. The data description ke bina, you cannot randomly go on and analyze any data. So gender of the customer, 0 means male, 1 means female. Similarly, zip code is their call, is number of call made by the customer per month. It's not in the minutes, it's the number of call. Similarly, SMS number will be there, MMS number will be there, monthly charge paid by the customer, number of days out of coverage for that particular customer, type of complaint, 0, no complaint, recharge issue, problem in of offer and packages, network problem, to call dropping. There are different coding for, we call it coding for collecting this data. Okay. Whether he or she is using single or dual SIM phone, type of phone, Android, iOS, all those information are there. And also churn information is also there. Whether they left the company or not. 0 means no churn, 1 means churn. So what we are trying to do here is, first we will actually try to understand the data, and then we will try to build a model to predict a future consumer based on their past 1 month behavior, whether they will churn or not, based on the number of calls they are making or the charges, depending on how I'm building the model. Everyone can build their own model. Now, this view data is generally helps you to go through the complete data only in a details. One second. Okay, let's quickly go through the uh, rest of the command. Now again, this dim is a function. It gives you the dimension of the data, which is already visible here to you. 5,000 observation, 40 variables. But anyway, I will run this command. Okay, churn object not found. Now what happened here? I'm using a different name for the variable where my data is read in particular session, this particular session. And that was reading the function df. So क्या हुआ? Because I have not run these commands to read the file again, what I can do is like churn equal to df. And I can simply assign the same data, put it into churn. What is happening? df में सारा data read होके था. With this simple command of the run of the command, I put the complete data in from df to churn. Clear है? Now if I run the dimension churn, it will give me the complete dimension of the this particular data file. Like I have 500 observation and 14 fields. That is what this particular function is doing. Now, if I'm trying to understand or look at the number of column, these kind of functions are very common to do exploratory research. Okay, 14 columns, dimension में सारा कुछ दिख रहा था. Now, this particular name function, what it is doing, give me a minute. It is giving you the name of all the fields. Clear to all of you? So mostly we are trying to have a thorough understanding of the data at disposal to us. Oh, sorry. What does this structure of the data function does? Now, if you look at this particular output, I'll expand it for you. We have first field, phone number, 5,000 observation, and it is given me few of the observation, like top 5 observation. Similarly here, few observations have been mentioned here for the age. How many records are there for the age? Again 5,000. Okay. Similarly for rest of the data or the field, I have the initial few data to have an understanding कि what is there in the that particular field. phone में क्या है? Okay, I will get okay fine. They are talking about Android or iPhone. Okay, dual SIM है. SIM मतलब okay they are talking about dual SIM. So you will get fair idea with the structure. Now this one is interesting. ठीक है. So what is happening? Phone number is double, age is double, gender is character. Any idea what they are written here? Anyone? ठीक है, we have different data type in R. Numbers, characters, doubles. Generally, a single character is are called character, and double means if more than one alphabet are there, we call it double. Anyway, these are the different type of data they are holding. That is what this information is showing you. It will hardly take half an hour, 1 hour to go through all the data type in the uh, R because it has very limited number of data, but data type, but it will take more time to have complete or thorough understanding of all those data types. So please go through that. अभी discussion करने का मतलब नहीं है. These are kind of the data they are holding. That is what this particular uh, function, the structure str function is doing. So this str function gave me the number of record in each kind of field, the type of information it is holding, number, character, and the size also. Now look at the function churn. Summary. Now summary is giving you the minimum value, the phone number, the first quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and the maximum value. I have already asked you any idea what is first quartile and third quartile is, because it helps you to kind of handle the outlier also. See, this mean, median, mode, we know about the central tendency of data. This first quartile and third quartile also helps you to understand the distribution of the data. Now, if you look at the summary, you will see an interesting thing. For gender, what they are showing, if you look at the data in the gender field, now what information they have given you? One is length, how many data are there, class, character, both character. They have not found the central tendency. Why? Why they have not found a central tendency for gender? Anyone, please tell me. A column is character rather than numeric. Okay, ठीक है. ठीक है, okay, fine. There is no meaning of finding the mean median mode of gender. Even if suppose I am using 1 to represent male and 0 to represent, or 1 to represent male and 2 to represent female, I cannot find the mean median mode of that. That does not make any sense. What does the quartile does? Quartile का मतलब ही समझ में आता है. First quartile and third quartile means it divides the data in 4 equal parts. So the first 25% data, suppose I am drawing the distribution graph of particular data. The till first quartile I will have 25% of the observation. First quartile is also known as the lower quartile. The meaning is that for the phone number, my first quartile is 3266. That means 25% of the phone number will be below 3266. Number of observation below 3266 will be 25%. Clearer? Mean means the median is my middle bata, just the beach में. And the third quartile means if I go to the graph or travel on the distribution graph from left to right, till I reaches the number 3266, I will have encountered 25% of the phone numbers. Means 25% of the phone numbers are below 3266 and 75% are above 3266. Again, median means it's the middle value. That means on the both side of median, I will have 50% of the data or the phone numbers. Third quartile again kind of is like 75% of the number will be below 7779. I hope you understand the first quartile and third quartile now. Okay, we'll move ahead. Similarly, we'll run this head function. What it does, it gives you the top 6 data in your this particular file. Okay. But if you want, suppose more than 6 observation, you can give these argument also. Simple functions are there: summary, churn, head. You gave the variable name inside, or the variable which is storing the data. You can also pass an argument inside when calling the function. Keep please top 10 भेजिएगा. So it can give you the top 10 observation in the data file. Similarly, if you want to look at the bottom 6 data, you can use the tail. You can pass the argument also in tail. Some extra information which you are passing inside the function are called argument. So churn is an argument, and equal to 10 is also an argument. That is a technical term. So tail may be the function I am calling the function. I'm sending the argument churn, the variable name. Okay. Now what is happening? Now what we are trying to do here, if we look at the A's, complaint, churn, these 3 kind of column, क्या क्या है देखते हैं. Age में I have number 1, 2, 3, right? But are they continuous variable? Age क्या represent कर रहा है? When we were looking at this particular data, 1 means 18 to 30 years, 2 means 31 to 40 years, right? Now, if you look at the summary of this particular age. इन्होंने क्या किया है? Minimum is 1, first quartile is 1, median is 2, mean is 1.881, third quartile is 3. Is this meaningful? If yes, why? If not, why? This is not meaningful. Okay, fine. I'm not going to get the answer. Okay. So this is not meaningful because it is not a continuous variable. It's a categorical variable. So before doing any kind of analysis on these variables, I have to make sure that the R understand these variables are categorical, because these are not continuous. कि complaint 1, 2, 3 है. There does not exist anything between 1 and 2. 1.5 complaints कोई नहीं कर सकता. I cannot be belonging to an age of 1.2, 2.3. These are kind of discrete variables. So I have to make sure that R understand that these variables are categorical variable. And this is the functions you will use to convert this variable so that the R does not kind of find the mean, median, mode of all these variables. Categorical variable का average नहीं होता. Suppose I am using 1 to represent male and 2 to represent female, and I kind of do the average of those gender in a class. That does not make any sense. If the class gender is 1.2 or 1.7, that is not how it works. So I cannot take average of categorical variable. So what is happening here? I'm saying, okay, fine. Churn, this is how you access a particular field inside a data file. So data file name is churn. You are saying assign the age field. What you are assigning to the age field? You understand how you are accessing a particular field in the churn data file. Churn is a file name, data file name, which is storing all the details of the customers. Now you are accessing the age field and you are assigning something there. What you are assigning? Some value. This as dot factor is a function you are using to convert the churn ka age wala data into factors, so as the R will understand that they are not going to use it as continuous variable. So we'll simply run these functions because I know age is not a continuous variable, discrete variable. Similarly, complaint and churn also. These are all categorical variable for my particular analysis. Now we will look at the structure of this particular data file. Now if we look here, the age is now called as factor. It is how many labels? It has 3 labels, 1, 2 and 3. Similarly, complaint has become a factor with 5 labels. From 0, 1, 2, 3, I think 4 will be also there. It is not visible. Anyway, we'll run the summary to understand how this summary is handling these categorical variables. Now look at the age wala column. What happened? It is giving you the count of 1 because 1 represents a particular age group from 18 to 30. There was no meaning of the average and everything here. So for the categorical variable, what is happening here? You are getting a count of that. So you will understand that majority of the customer or consumer who are falling into this particular age group. Clear to all of you? You can look at this churn and no churn data also. So we have 480 churns and 4520 no churn. ठीक है? Now I am going to draw a histogram. Histogram क्या होता है? The basic of the all the plotting we generally do. So I am calling the function hist and then passing on the number of calls made by each consumer. So I have 5,000 observation. So 5,000 plotting will vertical graph will be drawn in this particular histogram. I'm just giving the name कि main table का और the histogram का नाम क्या होगा? What will be the label on the x-axis? Number of call in a month, and label up on the y-axis will be frequency. And I'm just passing on the color as blue. You can use any color. You can also need not to give these argument also. जरूरी नहीं सारे arguments होगा. Now, if I run this particular command, this is what I'm getting, right? So then generally these type of distribution, we call it skewed or right skewed. It's not normally distributed. Take it. So this is the simplest histogram or the visualization you will do using the data. You get a fair idea. Okay, majority of people who comes under on the lower side, ज़्यादा बात नहीं करते हैं. Number of call in a month. They are making very limited calls. Zero वाले में बहुत सबसे ज़्यादा है. If you look at the frequency, it is around 1,000. The people are not making that many calls. You get some fair idea about the data. Clear to all of you? I'm not getting any text also. Okay, thank you. These things are not important. If you want to do this, you can do this also. Okay. Now what we are going to do, we are going to plot the histogram of the SMS in the month, similarly MMS, all those things, information, to get a fair idea how these are visible. So if you look at the number of SMS, this is somehow you can say normally distributed. Average 30-40 around होंगे सारे. This is the number of MS in a month. The storage of charges in a month. क्या है ये? The charges. ठीक है. The histogram of charges in a month. What I'm going to do. Now it is better. ठीक है. So what happens is like you get a fair idea of how the data is distributed with all these histograms. So these are the number, this histogram showing the number of days in a month without coverage. So we can see there mostly the people have 0 days of outrage or coverages. So I understand, okay, more or less, I don't have any network issue. But again, you can see this 2 days, 3 days, there are some observation, and not some observation, a lot of observation. And that should be a concern for your company. Okay. Now let's go back to this data set and look over to something. So this is what we have already done. Understanding the data, we have loaded the data. We have gone through the dimension of the data. We use all these functions, name and rows and column names. Names gave you the the field name. We gone through the structure of the data set. And now what we are doing is we have seen the summary of the data set also. What we are doing right now is kind of a little bit of visualization of those data to have a fair idea whether they are normally distributed or not. It's very much important the data should be normally distributed. अगर वो normally distributed नहीं होता है तो we cannot use a lot of statistical tools. Okay, we did see how we changed a categorical variable which was being treated as continuous variable. We have fair idea of continuous variable, a value. Suppose I'm using 1 to represent something and 2 to for something else. I can have n number of observation between 1 and 2. Decimal point say, so that is continuous. If it is integer, it is not continuous. Suppose I cannot say I own 2 car. I can say that, sorry. I cannot say I own 1.5 car. There is no meaning of that because the number of car you have will be or is categorical or non-continuous. Okay. This is how a normal distribution look like. Majority of the observation will be concentrated toward the mean value and equal distribution on the both side. This is right skewed if the tail is longer on the right side, left skewed if the tail is longer on the left side. What happens in this right skewed distribution? Your mean will be always on the right side of the median or mode. Mode will be always on the right hand side on the left skewed data. Okay. These things are not that much important unless until you're handling the outliers. आएंगे उसके ऊपर हम लोग. I don't think the time will permit it. So we did go through the histogram for continuous variable. Important याद रखिएगा. We cannot draw a histogram for categorical variable. For categorical variable, we do bar plot because continuous variable ka we can look into the frequency table of whether they are normally distributed or not. Categorical variable will never be normally distributed. We will look at box plot also to understand if there are any outliers. कैसे होता है देखेंगे हम लोग. I will quickly go through all the commands. Now for the categorical variable, what we are going to do? We are going to plot bar plot. कैसे function काम कर रहा है? Simple है. Bar plot. I'm asking them to use the table. The data I'm passing is again the data name or data file name, the values, the A's I'm trying to use or draw using bar plot, and these are just the name I'm using for the main and the X lab or Y lab color. These are not necessary, but just to make it complicated, they have given all the color. You can simply do the bar plot using these many data only. Itna data function will work. You need not to give any name for the main also or X lab also or Y lab also. The label you are using for X axis or Y axis. Okay. So we will plot it. We can see like the majority of people falls under this particular age category. Age into 30. And that is what the bar plot of age is showing you. So you got a fair idea with all this plotting. I'm surprised without loading the ggplot2 how come all these functions are working. कोई नहीं, most probably तो box plot उसको जरूरत पड़ेगा. ठीक है. Similarly, we can do this bar plot for all the categorical variable. अच्छा, surprisingly, majority of user are Android and very less number of people are iOS user. Things have gradually changed though. Now, similarly, we can use the box plot function. Again, whatever value we want, the file name, dollar, the column name or field name, and then again, whatever label I'm using for the main table or main plot, the X lab, whatever I'm using, the label I'm using for X axis, as simple as that. So this particular box product call in a month is a very good indication of identifying outlier. If we look at these values now, they are outlier. This is first quartile, third quartile, and these are the outlier. Majority of your observation are concentrated in these areas. So you know कि you have to better understand these people. ये outlier को समझने का कोई मतलब नहीं है. They are making a lot of calls. This is only part of my study, or we can handle them. How we can handle them? Most probably in next class we will see. Clear? Let's look at the SMS. Now here we see there are no outlier. They are there in a chunk. 30 to 50 SMS के बीच में और 35 to 50 SMS, 60 SMS के बीच में everyone are in that particular group. So there कोई outlier नहीं. Outlier is somebody who has बहुत ज़्यादा value, बहुत कम values. Similarly, for MS in a month, there are no outlier. The data is well and good. Here also, the charges amount in a month, I have a few outlier here also. Majority of people are paying around 450 to 1000. But these are who are paying more than 2000 in a month. So they are outlier for my particular study. I have to handle those outlier. So this particular file will kind of help you to do the pre-processing of any data before you can use that for any model building. We can look at the coverage also. In coverage also, we have very limited number of outlier, 1, 2, and we have to handle them also. In this particular case, we have only 2 outlier, we can simply ignore them also. But that is not a good practice if some company is following Six Sigma. So even 1 error, 2 error will be difficult to handle. Now, what we do to handle this outlier, let's take the example of these outlier. So what we do now, if something is beyond the third quartile, we give or we assign the third quartile value to all those variables, those outliers. You understand? We are putting a cap on the value for that particular field. Number of call 10,000 भी कर रहे हैं, तो we will put a cap on that. Okay, I will use the value of third quartile. I will assign the value of third quartile. Why we are doing that? Because it is important so that these values, the outliers, would not affect the overall understanding of the situation. If you are trying to understand the average income of a particular community, and if suppose Mr. Adani is living in your community, what will happen because of that outlier if you do not handle it? Suddenly, the average income of a completely poor community will be in lakh. The monthly income is 1 lakh. But everyone are poor in that particular community. They don't have 100 rupees also per day. And because of that outlier, you will get the average income on that particular community as 1 lakh. So the government will say, okay, fine, we do not have to worry about this particular community. They have very good average income. That is why before doing any analysis of, before using any data for your research project, you have to handle these outliers. So that those outliers should not, I have given you obviously a very extreme example, but that is how it is going to affect your research. May not be by that margin or of that magnitude, but it does affect your overall outcome. Okay. This treatment of outlier, take the next session, we'll discuss very quickly of that. Once you have done the treatment, we'll do the box plot, and then